Hey, Mom. Hey, welcome to your favorite podcast, Letters to an Imperfectly Perfect Mom. This show delivers parenting, positivity, and a promise for moms to know we don't have to be perfect. Each week, we want to inspire you to take what you hear, develop your knowledge, improve your habits, and boost your confidence. All of that is to help you be a successful mom for your children. Remember, it's okay to be imperfect, and that's exactly what makes you perfect. Now, here's your host, Coach Denna Michelle.
Welcome to Adhd Michelle. Should the cabin lose pressure, oxygen masks will drop from the overhead area. Please place your mask over your own mouth and nose before assisting others. Enjoy your flight. We hear this every time before we take off in the plane. This is true for our everyday life. We need to take care of ourselves before helping others, and that includes the children who are around us. Let the coaches at Denna Michelle help you to learn to take care of yourself first to be better for the children around you. Coaching works on the idea that you have all of the answers inside of you. The job of the coach is simply just to help you realize your potential and be confident in yourself as you are imperfectly perfect. Our caring and knowledgeable coaches at Denna Michelle are standing by to help you solve any painful or difficult parts about caring for children. Whether you need help with challenging behaviors, dealing with trauma or stress, or if you just need basic best practices, or you just want to boost your confidence, we can help. Coaching Calls with Denna Michelle is designed to help you to map out a path that will help you to reach your goals and make life easier for you and the children you care for. When you're ready, you can connect with one of our awesome coaches. To schedule a call, you can go to www.dennamichelle.com. That's www.dennamichelle.com. Or you can email us at teamdm@dennamichelle.com. Or you can reach us by phone at 414-207-4525. Hey, this is your coach, Denna Michelle here, and we're going to talk about that sensitive subject of discipline. So discipline can look like to some people like whooping their children, putting them on timeouts, taking things away, putting them in corners, or making them do exercise. And discipline can also look like you talking to them, having a conversation with them. So discipline looks like different things to different people. So discipline looked like to me when I was growing up, as I was getting whoopings, I was getting punishments. And one of the worst disciplines was to me where my mom would tell me to go in my room and wait for her to come back in there with whatever my punishment was going to be. To me, that was the worst, because my mind would just have me racing. Like, what am I getting ready to do? What is my punishment getting ready to be? Like, what is this discipline and what is it going to look like? So me actually sitting there thinking of what my punishment would be was probably the hardest punishment for me. However, with my 4 kids that I have now, discipline looks so different than my discipline growing up. Again, when I was growing up, sometimes I would get those whooping with whatever object my mother had in her sight, in her hands, whatever it was. If there was no weapons, it was her hands or nothing. I can't say that it made me who I am today. However, it made me who I am today. However, my discipline with my 4 children looks completely different. I went to school for education, and I worked in different school settings where I had 3-year-olds, infants, toddlers, as well as some school agers. So my discipline with them could not look the same way my discipline was growing up. So I had to learn how to give them different things. Redirecting was one of the biggest things that I learned with being an educator, and also talking to the students and getting them to do what I would like or what I would need for them to do. So discipline began to look different for me. And in the beginning, a lot of times I would kind of be like, oh, is this what I should do to my kids? Oh, but my mom, did this to me and it worked. Like, look at me today. I'm, very well off. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I'm well educated. I finished school. I, make a decent living for myself. So, it worked for me. However, I began to feel that mom guilt where I'm at school with these students all day long and I'm getting them to behave the way I want to by talking to them, by redirecting them. And also, the biggest one that helped with my classroom again is distractions and, getting them to focus on something else. And then again, the biggest one was talking to them and seeing what the issue was or what the problem was. Because a lot of time, any of the behaviors that was happening either in my classroom and as long as with my kids had nothing to do with me. It had something to do with other things. So helping them learn to problem solve was probably the biggest thing. It's helping them to acknowledge their own emotions and then problem solve their emotions with them, and me also helping them to problem solve if they were unable to problem solve on their own. So again, I began to take those things that I learned and had to do for my job and began to do them with my children at home. And so I'm going to go over some questions that I did receive while going through this process. I got a lot of questions on how families, children, and other child care providers should discipline their children. So one of the biggest questions that I got most of the time from parents was, how young is too young to discipline a child? You do not want to punish or discipline an infant or a baby or newborn. It is extremely rare that whatever a baby is doing, they're doing it intentionally. Babies cry. It's natural. It's normal. That is how they communicate. They are unable to tell you, I'm hungry, so they're going to cry. They're unable to tell you that my diaper is wet, so they're going to cry. They're unable to tell you, I just want somebody to hold me, so they're going to cry. So you have to help them problem solve by just figuring it out what you think that their needs. So if they're hungry, try feeding them. If they are wet or if it's dirty or soiled, trying to change their diaper. You also need to figure out that sometimes they just want to be held, holding them. Sometimes they just want some attention. So possibly reading them a book or putting them in front of a toy. And one big thing that I know a lot of parents and child care providers tend to ignore is a baby do not want to sit and be staring at the same thing all the time. So moving them into a new environment can also help to soothe as well. So just making sure that they're not staring at this same wall all day long. So moving them is another thing that a baby wants to do, giving them that different stimuli. The lights may be too bright, dimming the lights. Again, reading to them, doing other things. So there is nothing that a small infant or baby is going to do, which will be intentionally to cause you harm, or that they're just crying so that way they can get their problem solved. So again, just ensuring that you're solving their problems for them and talking to them. So there should not be anything that you should do. There are babies out there who we call colic babies, where they just cry and they're unconsolable. You may try moving them. You may try playing music. You may dim the lights. You may rock them. You may sing to them. You may read to them. You may try feeding them. You may try all things. My nephew was one of those babies where we literally would have to be with my sister and taking turns, like just consoling him and giving him breaks, but he would just cry. And so in those situations, it is okay if you are alone and don't have a lot of people to help to support you, to make sure that that baby is in a self-contained area to where they're not going to harm themselves and no one else is going to be able to harm them. So a crib that is appropriate and don't have all of the extra stuff that they can possibly suffocate themselves. So an empty crib, no blanket or anything like that, and just laying them in there for a minute and allowing them to cry is fine. If you have a baby monitor, making sure that that is on low so you can still hear them, but at the same time, the crying is not interfering with you taking that moment of self-care. You still want to be able to see and hear them or them be in that vicinity, and you're just taking a moment to yourself. I would say no longer than 3 minutes being away from them and allowing them to cry. 1 to 3 minutes. One to me is still enough. And then going back in there and checking on them and making sure that they are okay and trying to console them again. So going to get you a moment so you're able to come back and be whole for them to help them. What kind of correction can you give them? Again, sitting to those who are able to talk and communicate and figure out what's wrong with them and asking them how are they feeling, what's happening, what went on right before they got there. And then if they're unable to have those words, if they're younger toddlers or even some preschoolers, kind of giving them the words, showing them pictures, having a picture of an angry face. And if you don't have those pictures readily available, do it on your face. Like, are you angry? And showing an angry face, or balling up your fist. Oh, did that hurt you? Are you in pain? And then showing those emotions, like, where does it hurt? Asking them those things. Does it hurt on your arm? Does it hurt on there? Until you figure out what's happening. And a lot of times they will tend to calm down as well, because now you have their attention. You're talking to them. So they begin to calm down. So again, this is guidance versus discipline with them. So some people do believe in timeouts. Timeout should not exceed the child's age. So if you are putting a 1-year-old and you want to just have them sit away and think about it, pretty much, again, before you kind of have them go over there in that timeout space or that timeout time, kind of telling them, next time someone does something you don't like, let's not hit them. Maybe you can ask them to play. So when you're sitting there for your minute, think about some other things you can do when someone takes your toy away from you. So next time when someone takes your toy away from you, you can say, oh, that's my toy. Or you can come tell me. So that way, when they're there for their timeout, as people say, that they're thinking about other things that they could have done, like sharing, getting another toy, or playing with the toy, or telling them, hey, that's my toy, or getting help. So those will be things that they're over there thinking about. And that does work with preschoolers as well. So telling them those things. Again, I don't feel like under 3 definitely should not be on timeout. However, if you're going to use timeout, again, making sure that it does not exceed the child's age. So a 1-year-old sitting over there for 1 minute really is not going to help them or you when they're over there for the 1 minute. Sick babies are another thing when we're talking about colic babies and sick babies. You don't want to do anything harmful to them, again, because they're unable to console themselves. And we do have a whole class on some things that you can do as far as like colicky babies and sick babies. So that way you're not causing anything. So you also can reach out to us if you want other ideas on what to do when your child is colicky or sick or crying. So we do have classes for that as well. Most of the time, smaller kids, toddlers and infants, realize that they're exhausted and they're extended and they're going to cry. The behavior will kind of disappear again because it's just due to them not being able to communicate. So you definitely do not want to discipline children who are under the age of 2. Infinite tolerance is what I would like to go for. Children can be taught patience. That's kind of showing them, allowing them time to wait, allowing you time to wait. And that's part of the way to where as they grow up, then they will be able to express themselves more. They'll be more patient and more waiting, and they'll have less behaviors. When you get to those toddler ages, when they're potty training, you also don't want to discipline them because you don't want them to have that reaction of if they go to the bathroom on themselves, they're going to get punished. You want to do more of the rewarding them when they go to the bathroom the right way. So if they're on the pot, on the toilet, and they go, you want to do more of the rewarding, because then they're going to look to, oh, if I get here, I get those praises. And rewards do not always have to be something tangible. You don't know how far a high five will go, a fist bump, a hug, oh my God, you did it. That goes a long way than also physically giving them something. Because if you start to physically give them something throughout their lifetime, they're going to always want you to physically give them something versus just words of affirmation or praise, which does not have to get expensive. So again, you don't want to discipline your child if they spill something or if they have accidents, because clearly these are things and they're called accidents. So they did not do it intentionally. It was an accident. What you can do to help them, to guide them into what they need to do for a lifetime, is help you clean it up. A toddler can help you get a paper towel and wipe up the mess. It's not going to be perfect, but at least it's going to show them. So whenever I make a mess, I'm to either help clean it up or I am to clean it up. It is not a punishment to have the child to help to clean up the spill or mess that they made. And even with potty training, it's okay to have them pull down their pull up or to, get a new one to help wipe, guiding them, teaching them what you want them to learn from what happened versus for the moment. I'm going to whoop you. I'm going to put you on this. Again, you want them to learn for a lifetime. And so that's for too young. So now I got a question about teenagers later in life. It says, my teen sleeps late and doesn't want to go anywhere or don't want to go to church. Should I make them? So if you want your child to learn to get up and, the early bird catches the worm. So if that's what you want your child to learn, you can start helping them by setting alarm clocks. And you can't really want to have them go where you want them to go because you want them to learn to have their own life cycle and their own thing. And to know, again, they say the child raised in a church stays in a church or comes back to the church, never leaves the church, or even with school. Those are things that you feel like they are required to do. You have to make those things fun and rewarding. So the days that they do go to church, have them go. So again, you don't want to make it a punishment or forcing them to go to church. You can say, hey, I'm going to church, and after church, we're going to eat, and make it their choice, giving them a choice. So then that way they feel like, oh, okay, y'all going out to eat after church. I want to go out to eat. So I'm going to go to church. If they say no, hey, let them stay there. Just continue to do it. Oh, after church, we're going to the movies. Would you like to go? Because then eventually they'll go to church to see that here's the reward of we're going to church, or we're going out to eat, or we're doing that. Or again, when you come home, not to make it where you, again, have to do those expensive rewards. When you get home, just like, oh my God, such and such was at church and asked about you. And again, not forcing them to go, but giving them the incentives of going, oh, at church, I learned about this. Like when they have problems at school or with other people, oh, at church, I learned about this. Oh, maybe if you go next time, maybe you'll get the information and you'll learn. So again, you don't want to force them to go. And again, with school, finding something that they're excited about at school, having them set alarms so that way they can get up earlier. So again, teaching them things that they can do. If they're staying up in the middle of the night, having them go to bed early and setting up the routine so that they know when they wake up, this is what happens, this is what to expect, and this is what to do. And again, those moments when you see them awake and they didn't sleep in, oh my God, I'm so proud of you that you're up early. Would you like for me to cook you breakfast? Oh, would you like to go and do this with me? Would you like to do that? And again, that praise, affirmations, it probably not going to work as well with the toddlers where you, yay, but sometimes it does because they probably missed that and needed that. The biggest thing to me is having the conversation, talking to them, asking them, why don't they want to go to church? What don't they like about church? What don't they like about school? What's happening? Because it could be something that is happening that is not making them want to go to church or to school. So seeing what those things is, they could be dealing with some trauma that you don't know about. They can have social anxiety and don't want to be around large crowds. So just having that conversation with them. So the sleeping in could possibly not even be the issue or the problem. It could be something that's underlining and they possibly just stay in the bed because they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to go. So again, having that conversation with them about why is it that they don't want to go to church or why they don't want to go to school. So the biggest thing again is having that conversation. The closing thing that I would say as far as this go is modeling it. The importance of what you learned in school, what you learned in church, and what you learned in school. And again, not forcing them to go, because the more that they're forced to go, the more they're going to have that oppositional disorder and not want to go. So I don't force them to go. They'll choose on their own whether they want to go. And again, all principles and everything that you learned in school and in church, just kind of model those in front of them. So in that way, they're still getting the principles and the things that you learned from church and it's still being instilled in them. So they're still going to have all of those things that they need and what you want them to get from church. However, they didn't get it from the church. They got it from you. This goes kind of into our next question, but it's not necessarily age. It was, my child does not want to go to sleep at night. How can I get them to go to sleep? Routines, rituals are the biggest thing for getting children to sleep and waking up when you want them to. So starting a bedtime routine, whether they're an infant or whether they're 15, the routine can be you eat dinner, you watch a movie or play a video game. Then you eat your dessert or snack. We call it our nighttime snack because not all the time is it something sweet. So we call it our nighttime snack. Then you have your nighttime snack, and then it's take a shower, brush your teeth, or a bath, brush your teeth, whichever your child prefers. And then it's quiet time. So no TV, no phones, no iPads. You can have them read a story or something to relax their mind before they get ready for bed. And I know with the older kids, it's kind of hard. There has been times where we had to turn off the Wi-Fi. So then everything, electronic devices are cut off to where at 10 o'clock, it was turned off. So whether they was up sneaking around trying to at 10 o'clock, there was no Wi-Fi and cellular service would suck and you will be watching something and it'll just buffer for the longest of time. So setting that routine, because then eventually they're going to get tired and they're going to fall asleep. So routines and rituals. I also would go in there, even with my older kids as well as my younger kids, and I would tell them good night. I didn't necessarily tuck the older ones in, but I always said good night, I love you, and I'll see you in the morning. And a lot of times they did not like to pray before they go to bed. My younger one would, but the older ones wouldn't. And then it'll be, what did you enjoy about your day? What didn't you like about your day? What would you change about your day? And sometimes we will do that together as a group, and sometimes we'll individually do it. And then if time was not allotted, again, I still made sure that I went in there and I said, good night, I love you, and I'll see you in the morning. So those are things that you want to do. So kind of just set with your kids a routine and a ritual so that way they know bedtime is coming. Oh, another thing that I used to do a long time ago with my kids, which I got from my sister-in-law, is we had a song. So like when they were younger with my older three and I was single, so it was just me. So it was a little harder to get three smaller kids that were 5, 4, and 2 into bed. So it was harder for me to try and get all of them into bed at the same time. So my sister-in-law would sing this song, it's time for bed, it's time for bed. It's time for bed, 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 bed. It's time for bed. So my kids knew, oh man, they had to stop whatever they were doing. And it was time to go to bed. So then they would go to their beds so that we can lay down. And that's when I would say, how was your day? What did you do? We'll do our prayer. And then I would tell them, good night. I love you. See you in the morning. So that was something to get them to stop doing what they were doing, because I also had a family daycare that was in the house. So there were other kids who were in the house and we were doing an activity as well before it was time for everybody to lay down or before it was time for them to go home. So that was a thing that we did so that everybody knew that it was time to lay down and go to sleep, because it was, instead of me just getting just my 3 to sleep, I also had to get daycare kids down as well as transitioning some to go home with their parents. So that was just a big transition time for everybody in the house during that time. Let's see, let's go to the next question, which is about ADHD. What about children who have ADHD, or if you think that your child has ADHD? So ADHD is attention deficit disorder. So that's ADD. And ADHD is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So it's pretty much when children are, as simple terms, when they are hyper, they can't sit down, they can't be still, they can't focus on one thing at a time. So some things that I did with children who are either ADD or ADHD in my classroom, in their 3, a lot of times parents will want to try and label them during their time when they're 3. I did not try to label a lot of kids at 3 as ADD or ADHD, because I feel like all children want to be moved and they learn through movement, they learn through play. So I would just keep them busy and keep them entertained and keep them focused. By the end of the day, I was tired, but at the end of the day, they were tired as well. So with younger preschool age and younger, pretty much is just keeping them busy, keeping them doing things with that. So I know it's going to be tiring. So I'm having a schedule again, that routine, that ritual helps with children who are preschool, under school age. So infants to 5 if you feel like, infants. I have, again, never heard of that. However, it can be. Their parents may feel like that. Childcare professionals may feel like that. The easiest thing is to keep them busy, keep them with activities, keep them on a routine. If you know that this child every time is done with the activity before other students or other children are done, have them something else to do. Have a backup plan for them. Every time little Johnny is going to be done with these blocks before everybody else do. So then you possibly want to have little Johnny be able to make some blocks. So get some cardboard, some cereal boxes, and have him put them together and then build the blocks with those. So then that way he has a little bit longer time to do something else. Little Johnny may be like, oh, I'm knocking these blocks over. I'm done with them. That could be the sign that he's bored with them and needs something else to do. So then you can possibly have him switch and go to the next activity prior. So, if you're in your classroom with little Johnny, you can have everybody else have their timer set to go to their next station prior to little Johnny. And you can go to little Johnny 5 minutes before everybody else is transitioning. And you can give him the choices of, hey, what would you like your next activity to do? Would you like it to be this, or would you like it to do this? I had one little boy who became my little helper. So anytime between transitioning between classes, he was my bell ringer. So I would come to him 5 minutes before if he was doing what I needed him to do. 5 minutes before everybody else was done, I would go to him and I can be like, oh, I seen that you were playing well here with your whole time. Okay, now it's time for you to be my helper and help me transition. So we're going to walk over here, make sure his area is clean. He cleaned up his spot, and then he can ring the bell when it's time to go to the next activity. So I stopped him prior to everybody else, so that way he can do that. So his attention now was not focused on, oh, I'm going to play with these blocks and I'm done with it. His attention more so was focused on, I need to make sure that I'm playing nicely, doing what I need to do because I want to ring the bell. So his attention was not focused on, okay, I want to be done with this. I'm hurry up that. His attention in his mind was, I want to make sure that I'm able to ring the bell. So I'm going to do what I got to do. And most of the times Miss Dina, is it time for me to ring the bell? And I'll be like, oh, just a little bit longer. I'm going to come get you. And so that began to be his focus and his attention on. As I worked with school leaders, a lot of them did not have, they had to sit there for longer periods of time. So to help them, the biggest thing that I would do is they had fidget spinners, and a lot of schools now took them away because people were misusing them the wrong way. Fidget toys are very good for children who have ADD and ADHD because it gives them something else to do so that they can focus on what they're doing. And a lot of children and teachers have taken that away from kids. So I allow kids to have fidget toys or fidget spinners. When they got taken out of classrooms and schools, I would give them a pen that they can flick so they could push it down and push it up. So their attention was on that. Sometimes they would tap on the desk or that, which interfered with a lot of other students in the classroom. So I began to have them where they're able to tap on their leg versus tapping on the desk. Some people would fiddle with their hair and want to twirl their hair as something that can do. I allow them to, find whatever worked for them, their mini distraction as they were in the classroom, so that way they can focus on the work that they were doing. They do have some soft fidgets now where they can push the bubbles in or whatever. So that works with fine motor from 2 and up, where they can just poke the holes in and out. So that's another one that they can do. And just having small things, erasers that they can just touch and feel on, having them touch the pages of their book as they're going through. So that helps as well with those ADHD kids and allowing them to do that. So it may look like they're playing or they're fidgeting or they're doing something, but again, that helps them to focus. And some of these things even work for us as adults. I know still to this day, I will sometimes have to flicker my pen and, where you push it down, push it up, push it up, push it down. So sometimes I do have to do that. So acknowledging even, again, us as adults, we have to do something. Another big one for me and also for my older teenager, listening to music. So that's another one that helps as well. So I know we're in the world of technology now where you allow them to listen to headphones that have music on there. Sometimes we may have to choose the music to make sure that it is appropriate, or just having lullaby music playing in the background for some school agers as well as younger students, having that music kind of playing in the background helps with those ADHD kids and ADD kids. And you can do these things at home if you're a parent as well. So again, having those things to give them something to focus on while they're focusing on something else. So they are more likely to focus on more than one thing at a time. So it's not really showing them favoritism. So I don't want teachers to think that, oh, because this student has this, that you're showing them favoritism where they get to play with the toy and other students in the classroom do not have those things. That you can have that conversation with the students in a way where it's not putting that kid on the spot, where you can have the conversation in front of the class saying, oh, okay, we have some things where people need to focus on more than one thing at a time. So how many of us can focus on more than one thing at a time? And you can have everybody who raise their hands. And like, oh, okay, well, if you need to focus on more than one thing at a time, you can possibly rub your finger on your shirt. So everybody, let's write this math problem out and see if you can focus by rubbing your finger on your desk and see if that helps you focus. If it doesn't help you focus, don't do it. So then that way, it's not just that one student learning these techniques, but you taught it to the whole class. And then kids can see, oh, this helps me focus while I'm working. So you can do it in a discreet way that you're not putting this kid on the spot, or talking to that kid individually and knowing that this is what it is, and just letting other students know, hey, we're going to be trying something new, something different. If you have any questions, you definitely can email me, contact me. We do have courses on this, and I do offer coaching to individuals as well as groups, childcare providers, or parents to help you deal with your specific situation. Another question that I get, where my child lies. So how can I get my child to tell the truth? So the biggest thing, again, is having a conversation with them and not really putting them on the spot, but just having a conversation. Oh, why would you say that? What happened? The biggest thing is being that model of truth yourself. So role modeling, telling the truth. And the biggest thing is, I know a lot of us, we hate to admit when we're wrong, but that is another form of telling the truth to your child. So admitting when you did something wrong helps them to realize, oh, it's okay to be wrong. And that'll help lessen the effect for them where they're not wanting to tell the truth. So I have admitted to my kids all the time when, even something as simple as, it's going to snow outside and it doesn't snow outside. Oh, I guess I wasn't telling the truth. It didn't snow outside. I apologize. It's sunny outside. Or when we're running late and I'm supposed to get them to basketball practice at a certain time and we're running late. Oh, I apologize for making you guys late to practice. So just modeling that for them, because then they'll model it back and doing that. So again, modeling your whole lifestyle. When you go to the grocery store and you're in the self-checkout line, I have done this plenty of times where I have forgotten something underneath the cart, and we are literally in the car, and I'll look on my receipt and see that this little pack of gum was not on my receipt, and I am taking it back in the store and I am paying for it. And my kids be like, but we made it out the store. Why are you going back in there? I will go back into the store and I will pay for that. One, I am modeling to my kids, do not steal, do not cheat, do not lie. And two, I do not want that guilty conscience, or what some people call karma, or whatever, bad vibes, whatever, coming back on me that I stole something and I knew that I took it and didn't pay for it. So I will go back into the store and I will pay for that. So modeling that to my children helped them to realize, by all means, to tell the truth, whatever the consequence may be, telling the truth. So whether me saying that, I stole that and I go back in, and whether the consequences, if they calling security on me like she stole this, or whether it's just simply me paying for, or whether it's simply me just returning the item that I didn't pay for, whatever the consequences is, I'm letting them know that I am willing to handle the consequences. And even when I've done something to them, they are allowed to kind of give me a consequence from me doing something that I didn't do that offended them or helped them. And again, most of the time, they just ask me to apologize. Don't do it next time, because that's what I did, to them growing up when they did something that I didn't like. providing verbal teaching of the truth again. So telling your children, about the boy who cried wolf when they're younger, telling them that story, telling them consequences for when they don't tell the truth, things that would happen, watching some of those law things as they get older to see that, there's a consequence when you commit a crime, when you don't tell the truth, you have to go through this trial and your fate is in their hands, making sure presenting the facts so that way the truth will come out, truth shall set you free, saying all of those things. So providing those things and having that. And again, kind of like I said earlier, making sure that you're establishing a consequence for lying. So most of the time it was not, if they lied to me, oh, don't do it again. In the beginning, that is kind of how it is, and depending on the lie. If the lie is a big enough lie, the consequence can be you're not allowed to do that anymore. So, when it was time to go to bed, you were on your phone. Again, it was mommy took the Wi-Fi away from everybody. So now no one's going to be able to be on their phone or their TV or their electronic device after a certain time because I asked you if you were on and you told me you wasn't. Come to find out you was on, and that happened several times. So now the Wi-Fi is taken away. So there is a consequence for when you're not telling the truth. And again, talked about it before, providing them a little bit of grace for that, not necessarily punishing them immediately when it happened, but giving them time to tell the truth. So if it's an ongoing where they're not telling the truth, then there's a big major consequence. But again, coming up with those consequences. And again, the biggest thing, and you're going to hear me say it a lot, is praise. So praise them when they tell you the truth. Oh, thank you for telling me the truth. I appreciate that. What would you like your consequence to be? It can be this or this if they didn't tell the truth. So giving them that option as well. But again, praising them, younger people, oh my God, you told me the truth. I'm so proud of you. So happy. And then even if they get older, thank you for telling the truth. I really appreciate that. That makes me respect you and allows me to give you more responsibilities as you grow up and as you're getting older. Questions that you can ask when you're disciplining your child, or when to know what kind of discipline type you want to do. So whether you want to do the whooping, whether you want to do the punishment, whether you want to take some things away, whether you want to do the timeout, whether you just want to have that guided discussion, whether you want to redirect or distract them, some things that you can think about, or questions to yourself that you can think about, or questions to ask yourself before you decide what discipline action you want to take is this discipline technique going to relate to whatever the behavior is? So it is important for the discipline to match whatever the problem, the crime, whatever they did wrong is. So this is going to help them to do that logic thinking as they get older. So this is going to help them for the lifetime versus the moment. So if your child decides that they want to take a toy away from somebody who's playing with a toy, and it just hits them and takes a toy, the discipline action could be, because you didn't have this toy, I'm going to take the toy and give it back to them, and you're not allowed to play with it. That goes with it. If you take something that's not yours, most likely it's going to get taken away from you. So that discipline action fits what the child did. So they hit somebody and took a toy from them. So discipline action can be taking that toy back from them and not allowing them to play with that toy because think that it didn't belong to them in the first place. It wasn't for them to play with. Another one can be your child stays out past their designated curfew that you have given them. A good discipline technique is, now you're not allowed to go out because I can't trust that you're going to come back home before your curfew. So for a while, you're not going to be able to go out past your curfew. And that can be for a time frame. But you have to allow them to go back out to see if you can gain their trust, and they're going to come back in before curfew time. So again, still having that guided discussion to help them to know what do you want them to do next time. And then if they come in from curfew on a reoccurring basis before curfew, allowing them, that praise, I see that you've been coming in on curfew on time. I'm going to extend your curfew another 15, 30 minutes. So then that way they can continue to come in before their curfew time. So again, the question to ask yourself is, does this discipline technique match the behavior? The second thing to think about that you want to know is, does this teach my child what they need to do differently? So again, when you're thinking about the technique that you want to do, does this teach my child to do what I want them to do, or to at least try something different? So in their problem solving thing, that they're trying to do something different. I see a whole lot of parents, again, recommending or disciplining or putting kids on punishment for bad choices, which is not really a bad thing. However, with their bad choices, most of the time, the consequence comes back on them. So they're already learning that, if I jump on a table and I fall off, boom, I hurt myself. So there's no reason for you discipline them. That discipline already came. So that thing that can be used, or that technique that should be used, is, okay, next time you don't want to stand on a table because you can fall and hurt yourself again. So that disciplinary action already came. So that's just a guidance thing or a reminder not to do that again, because this can happen. So again, jumping, you don't want to tell them, oh no, don't do that. Don't jump on that. Don't do that. Again, you want to just tell them, next time you don't want to be up there, because remember, you failed last time. So again, the thing to think about is, does this teach my child what you need them to do differently, or to have them do something differently? So another thing to think about when you're doing a disciplinary is, how is this interaction or this technique going to hinder or better my relationship with my child or with the children who you're in care of? Does this help me to have a better relationship with them, or is this going to make our relationship worse? So if I whip them right now, is this going to teach them that I love them and I want them to do what I need to do? Or is this going to push them further away and have them not do what I need them to do, or not interconnect with me? If they have lied to me and then tell me the truth, and I whoop them for lying to me, is this going to help them to continue to lie to me? Or is this going to make them feel like they can trust me and that they will tell me the truth? So again, making sure that what discipline technique we choose, if it's going to help to bring our children, students, people we're caring for closer to us, or if this is going to make them run further away, build a connection with them, or if they're going to disconnect. And again, this goes back to what we started with. Does this discipline fit my child? So if this is an infant, whooping them, does this really help them? If they're a teenager, does whooping them help? Another thing to think about when it doesn't fit the child, their personality. So if they're a really quiet person, does yelling at them and screaming at them help? Because their personality is quiet, would it be more appropriate to have a conversation in a mellow tone, calm way, going down to their level versus standing over them and hovering over them? Because a lot of quiet children are intimidated by someone who's bigger than them standing over them. So possibly going down to their eye level to have the conversation with them, so that they don't feel like you are overpowering them or whatever that they're dealing with. And then again, different age developments, or if the child has a disability. So making sure that you also take into account that they may have a disability and some of the things that they may not be able to physically or mentally comprehend or do. So making sure that that takes part and play in how you're disciplining your child or children who are in your care. And then another thing you need to think about is, will my child, again, learn this on their own without me stepping in to discipline them? Because again, just like jumping on the table, if they fall off, that was automatically a discipline on its own and a consequence on its own, to where it was immediately taught. So will they learn a lesson on their own, to where sometimes you might not have to do anything? And that is a disciplinary technique all in its own, where you don't have to do anything. Letting it play out, letting it happen, sometimes allows that discipline tool to happen on its own. The last thing that you guys can think about is, can I follow through with this? Because there are some things, like I said, when I used to, because I got whooped and I was hit when I was younger, like, is this something that I want to follow through and do with my kids? So again, it may have worked for me, and, but it might not work for my kids. And again, it didn't work for me, whooping my kids, because again, I had my own daycare. I've had worked in school systems. I went into other daycares where I didn't even know kids and literally had to just step in and guide kids. And I was unable to whoop them. I was unable to discipline them. I was unable to put them on timeouts. I was unable to yell at them. I was unable to scream at them. So coming home to my own children, I did not feel comfortable with following through on doing the same disciplinary actions that happened to me. So that's when I realized I had to do something different. So if there's something that doesn't sit right with you, then don't do it. If it's something that you can learn to do differently, do it. And the biggest takeaway here in everything, and you kind of heard me say it, is like the routines and the rituals and all of that, is be consistent and follow through and maintaining those boundaries and talking to your students and your children and having those conversations and guiding them through it and being consistent. And if something is not working and you tried it for a while, trying something else. But again, being consistent, following through with it, making sure that you do it. And again, if you need help with it, seeking out and getting some help. Talking to your kids and having that conversation with them is also key. But again, big takeaway is being consistent, following through, making sure that it is something that sits right with you and something that you are willing to do and to try, and to make sure that everybody in your care is being taken care of and is happy and content and is learning those lessons for a lifetime. I do want to close with our question that we ask each week, and even with our guests. What is your imperfectly perfect mom moment? So my imperfectly perfect mom moment was a moment when my older sons were fighting. And we had a loft at this time. So it was like they can look over the loft into our living room. And so they were physically fighting in there. And I came in there to kind of break up the fight. And I got in the middle of the fight and I got hit. So my natural reaction was, when I got hit, was to swing back, hit. And so I went back to kind of hit them off, because again, I got hit. So my natural reaction was to kind of push them off. And so I pushed one of them kind of into the rear, where one of them possibly could have kind of fell over, but thank God they didn't. They just kind of hit it. And then the other one, natural reaction was that they wanted to, still in that moment of fighting, where they wanted to swing off and hit me. And so I had to, really think and get into my mindset, okay, what can I do differently right now? Because I don't want to harm them and I don't want them harming each other. So in my imperfectly moment, I just yelled, "Stop right now," and just screamed. So then that kind of put everybody into a moment of, what? Oh my God, what's happening? What's going on? And so then my one son still continued to have his hands balled up because he's still angry. He still wants to fight. And I had to remind him that you are an African-American male. And if you swing off and hit me or hit him, if the police are called, they're going to take you because you're bigger than everybody. You're African-American male. And do you want to spend time in jail? And then I said, and then I'm going to have to defend myself if you hit me. And I know you're my son, but my first priority is myself, so that I'm able to take care of the rest of your siblings and myself. So I'm going to defend myself. And then if I defend myself to the max, then I can possibly go to jail, and then you guys won't have a mom. So in this moment, we can either fight and duke it out, and one or both of us is going to go to jail, or we can think about something else to do. And so then he kind of then unballed his fist and was off the guard. And then we had a conversation about what the fight was. And then we sat down and came up with a solution that both of them can't share rooms. So then we immediately found a different space in the house to where one slept on the loft. Instead of it being an area where there was common ground, that then became their room. So instead of them sharing, we separated, and they had their own space. So they were no longer on top of each other, because they were two teenage boys who had two different personalities and two different ways of living and being. So we just came up with a solution that they don't have to share rooms anymore. And we came up with a different space that took away from everybody being able to have that common ground to now where it's just one of their spaces and they stayed in their own space. So that is my imperfectly perfect mom moments, where I overreacted in a little moment and had to set back to be like, oh, this is not something that I'm comfortable with, and that we had to think of something different. And the life learned lesson that I wanted everybody to learn, that if we do get into this physical altercation, that the possibility of somebody getting hurt, somebody either going to jail, and those are all things that we did not want to happen. So that is my imperfectly perfect mom moment. If you need any help with anything or want different strategies or help or want to attend one of the courses that we can have on child discipline, you can reach me again on our website at www.dennamichelle.com, or you can email me at Denna, DENNA, at dennamichelle.com, or you can always reach me on social media at Denna Michelle in all areas. Thanks. Have a good day. And just remember, you are imperfectly perfect. Dear child punishing mom, I have had my share of thoughts where I just wanted to, I have had to tell them to walk away. I have had to tell myself to walk away. I have had to lock myself in the bathroom. If I get upset, then I'm out of control. And out of control equals me doing something I know I will regret as soon as I'm done. Sometimes my children's behavior try my patience. Will punishments, will they really work? Punishing will help for the moment. Show them what you want them to do and do it when you're calm enough to make the best decision for them and you. This will last a lifetime. Give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you'll feed him for a lifetime. We all heard that saying before. Which do you want? Do you want your children to learn for a day or for a lifetime? I remember growing up and my mom telling me to go to my room until she came in there with the punishment that she came up with. Waiting for her was worse than the punishment itself. Not knowing if I was going to get a whooping or if I was going to have to stay in my room for a week, or the dreaded getting extra chores. Chores is another responsibility that I struggle with because to me, it was a punishment as I was growing up. And that's how I view it now. I view all my chores and things that I have to do as a punishment. I pay people to clean my house so I don't feel overwhelmed. However, if my mom took the time to guide me in what she ultimately wanted me to do in the first place, then I would have not viewed cleaning as a punishment, but it's something as simple as the things that we need to get done. And that's all it was. I've learned to do my chores that day. However, I did not learn for a lifetime. Discipline should be viewed as a correction and guiding for your child to live in the world and not to be a punishment. Let's guide, not punish. Guiding our future, your coach, Denna Michelle. P.S. Give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you'll feed him for a lifetime.